Drinking your own pee, putting
What?
it all over your face.
Rubbing it in the morning like a facial. Oh my goodness. Some beauty tips for the ladies out there. Don't forget about the coffee enema, which is going to be spoken about as well. So, such an exciting episode ahead for us here. Let's go.
Welcome to the Masters of Wellness podcast, your ultimate path to holistic health, wellness, and success. Discover the powerful fusion of Eastern wisdom and Western science, designed to balance your mind, body, and spirit. Our channel brings you holistic wellness practices, effective strategies to boost productivity, and insights on stress reduction and active aging. Join our global community and transform your life with holistic wellness. Cheers to a healthier, happier you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Masters of Wellness podcast again. And we have a super special guest today, somebody that Chuck has spoken about quite a few times and said they've had some very entertaining conversations with her. Chuck, you know Carrie probably better than most people. Why don't you give us an introduction and then we're going to start our chat.
Oh my gosh, are you in for a treat? Carrie, we are so blessed to have you here. I cannot wait for this episode. Look, I met Carrie at my ayahuasca retreat. We talked about this at that episode, so if you didn't see it, go back and check it out. But Carrie, immediately, with maybe the first 30 seconds of the words coming out of her mouth, and you'll experience the same thing today, the feedback that your brain is going to get is Carrie knows her shit. Wow. Not only does she know her shit when it comes to spirituality, plant medicine, but she knows her shit when it comes to health. And guess what? We are a wellness podcast. I practically begged her, but I didn't have to too bad because she really wanted to come here and share her 30 plus years of expertise. Her story is amazing. So Carrie, without further ado, hi, welcome.
Hey. Hi. Thank
so
you
much for
guys
being here.
so much. Yes. So I'm Carrie. My name's Carrie Frecker. I live in Jacksonville, Florida, by way of Washington, by way of Las Vegas, by way of California. And we've spent a lot of years moving around, but we're definitely in our permanent home in Jacksonville, Florida. For me, when I kind of think about who is Carrie, I really can't separate myself from who I am as a wife and a mother. Those are actually my first and foremost responsibilities in my life. Everything I do is a dance around my family. And we have a pretty special situation because I've spent my children's life, they're homeschool kids. They're very unique kids. They've never been to school, never been to a doctor. They spent their life at home with me. And in order to do what I do, which is to talk to a lot of people, to be here with you right now, I do it all with my kids at my side, my husband and my family upholding me. It's actually a group effort. I do not do this alone. When I'm gone on the weekends serving in the medicine space, or I'm sitting here, I'm taking clients during the week, serving combo, traveling. I'm gone a lot. I'm busy a lot. And the only way to do this is with a family structure that fully supports me in this endeavor. It's something we all believe in and we all contribute to. When I'm gone, families does all the things, open and close the curtains, feed the pets, put the air conditioner up and down, all of those things that mom would normally do in the house. I'm gone a lot. And so first and foremost, that's who I am. I'm a wife and a mother. I'm married to the love of my life and my best friend. And really, when I met him, I came alive in this journey. I had been on my path in a really heavy way since I was 13 years old. But that's really just when trying to figure out what's going on with me started. I came into this world with the health issues that I have that we're going to talk about. But my path really began with me being fed up by 13 and going, what in the world is wrong? By the time I was 16, I wanted my driver's license to continue the process. What is wrong? I wanted, to fix my body. And I think I would say I wanted to fix my soul. I wanted to know what was wrong, why everything was the way that it was. And so when I was 16, I got my driver's license. I got my first job at a restaurant. I was a tortilla girl making handmade tortillas, standing in the center of a restaurant in a glass box for everybody to watch. And I would take all of my paychecks, and I had a car, I had insurance, I had gas. And beyond that, I wanted books from Barnes and Noble. And I would go to Barnes and Noble after I paid all of my bills, and I would wander around the self-help section, the psychology section. I'd wander around like herbs and juicing and healing plant aisles, and I could get one book every 2 weeks. And I was very careful. Guys, this is before the internet, okay? This is when the internet was a brand new thing. And obviously my research has drastically changed from how it began. But I would go to Barnes and Noble and I would very carefully select books. And then I would go home and read them and study them until they would actually fall apart. Back then, I was using a lot of saunas at the gym. I would take these books into the saunas and the glue would soften and my books would fall apart. But I just studied them and studied them and studied them. And one thing leads to another thing. You start to figure out things that are wrong with you physically, and it moves you to understanding that something is wrong mentally or emotionally, or you have trauma and wounds. Now we're looking at psychology. And as I progressed along my path, I really moved into spirituality, which is kind of a huge story. Not even sure we'll ever tell that story, but I was pushed really hard into spirituality through some very uncomfortable events in my life. And I actually made my way originally through the church as a born again Christian. And I went from not knowing the Bible, being vehemently against something I had never read. And I was completely asleep. And I had a big event happen in my life, and it woke me up very quickly. And it forced my hand very awkwardly into the spiritual realm. And it just progressed from there. We spent many years in the church. I studied the Bible in the Hebrew and the Greek until I questioned my pastors enough to study my way out of the church, being publicly dismissed from the church for my questioning. And that drove me into really the next part of my life where I understood that my salvation was coming from within me and I still had a lot of work left to do. And that put me on my path. I think the first thing I did was engage with hypnotherapy. And then I began going through processes of becoming trained as a hypnotherapist, ended up with 4 certifications in that, in Akashic record readings and sound healing and Reiki healing. And then I moved into medicine work. I think most people, or a lot of people, have really like dabbled with psychedelics, and I've kind of done all of the things. But I got introduced into the medicine space. I was already doing some medicine work, and I got introduced to the space. I actually had somebody else that wanted to go and invited me, and I was almost indifferent. I had been on my path already at that point for probably 24, 25 years. And I just did not feel a need to do a journey like that. But I went with somebody that really wanted me to come. And ultimately, I stayed and she left. And medicine work has absolutely become my life. Um, so I've been on a healing path for 27 years. I was sick for almost 40 years, and we can unpack and talk about that, because it's actually an answer for a lot of people, and a lot of people share the exact reason that I was sick, though it may manifest differently. And it's kind of exciting and interesting for me because this is the very first time I've ever spoken of my story and my health journey from this side of it. I've been in it 40 years and I'm right in the middle. I'm actually coming to the last phase of this powerful, powerful program that has been the answer for me and has radically transformed my life. So I'm not sick anymore. In fact, I'm very, very well. And I think what we'll kind of learn here today is how the last 40 years, or really specifically like the last 27 years, has been a journey to every single piece of knowledge that I have, that I share on a daily basis. Every download I've ever had has come through the challenge of illness and trying to identify what the hell is wrong with me and why can't I make it stop no matter what I do. So I'm incredibly well. I have no illness left in my body. And I'm actually at the, kind of the second act of my life. I spent 40 years very sick, and I intend to spend the next 40 years very well. So
That's
kind
beautiful.
of, about me.
That is awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I hope that we can unpack a lot of that today so that it doesn't take 40 years for anybody watching this to
Yes.
also feel
Exactly. And that's one of the things that I really specialize in as a soul. I'm a communicator, and everything I've ever experienced has not only helped me, but I've always known immediately that my job was to take what I learned and take it to the world in a way that they can interpret and understand. And I've been very blessed. I've had many people tell me that they've never heard anybody until I spoke. And it's just all part of the package. I know beyond the shadow of a doubt that I chose this and I chose this life. I don't regret any of it. I love all of it. And this process has been a teacher to me and to everybody around me. And it's served so many literally countless people. I can't even remember them all. Sometimes I receive information in the morning that impacts me hugely. And by evening, somebody walks into my life, whether it's at a grocery store or in the medicine space, it doesn't matter. They walk into my life and they need to hear exactly what I learned this morning. So it's a very powerful journey, and communicating it to the world is a huge part of what I do.
Wow, that is some introduction, Carrie. Over the last few months, Chuck and I have had the opportunity to meet and chat to some incredible people, and we've found there's been a common thread with a lot of people we've spoken to about the universe manifesting, or the universe presenting something to us at the exact time that we need it. Something happens in the
Yes.
morning, or something happens on a particular day, and then the next day or that afternoon or the next week, the solution arrives at your door and you think, where the heck did that come from?
Yes.
So that's something that we've heard that a few times, even for yourself and for myself as well. Carrie, there's like three things that really stand out in the introduction there. One is about the homeschooling for your children. The second one was about that your children have never been to a doctor, which is amazing. And then the third thing was about your 40 years of sickness. Like, I definitely want to know more about that. And now you're on this next chapter of your life where you put that behind you. So can we just maybe start with the education part? Because there is a reason why parents choose to homeschool their children. What was the catalyst that led you to that decision?
I don't believe in anything they teach. First of all, my MO is to question everything. Like, we're a people, as humans, we're so limited by our perspective. And to me, it's really important to ask a lot of questions, because when you do, you'll start gaining other perspectives that you didn't know were really just outside of your view. My question is, who said reading, writing, and arithmetic is what human beings need? I'm a born psychic intuitive. I feel the world and I just know things. And school was the worst thing that could have ever happened to me. School made me feel small. It made me feel stupid. It made me feel judged. It made me feel unworthy. And I have a big issue, especially, and I can go in so many directions on every topic, because when you've asked so many questions and you have a lot of perspective, you start to realize how many things are kind of plugged into something. And like, I have a big issue with the school system. I'm a mom of boys. And one of the big things that I talk about in life is bringing us back into falling into place with what is the masculine and what is the feminine, and how do we do this dance. And we'll do a whole episode on it because it's just a huge topic. But, you know, the divine masculine, the answers are inside. And for a boy to be in school and be told that all of the answers are outside of him, and that if he doesn't get the answers right about these irrelevant reading, writing, arithmetic, and lies, false history, absolutely false lies, then he doesn't get an A on the test. And if he gets a bad grade, I'm from a generation where you don't get any ice cream, or you don't get something, you're on restriction because you didn't pass a test. And what it does is it emasculates men. It's bad for all people, but it emasculates men. And so we have a crisis of emasculated men and masculine women. And this is a big piece of that. So the other issue that I have with the school system is, I birthed my children because I desperately wanted them. And I believed that the world needed my children. And to have somebody else take them away from my hip and tell them what to think and believe and how to process the things that happen today, and a kid bullying, or I don't care what it is, getting caught picking your nose in school and being humiliated. Or, I know somebody that I believe they were in second grade and they were very quietly singing a song to themselves. It's a darling story. They were so darling. This precious, innocent child was singing the Winnie the Pooh song to themselves at their desk and the teacher yelled at them in front of the classroom, and they've identified that as the moment that changed their life, the moment they went inside and never came back out. You are not doing that to my child. I birthed them. I want them. I will teach them. They are a vibrational match for me and for my husband, and everything they need to learn can come from inside the home. All math. By 2 and 3 years old, children can read a clock. The clock is the same as measurements. It's division, it's fractions, it's money, right? 4 15-minute segments on a clock, 4 quarters and a dollar, 4 quarters and measuring. All of this can be done at home through life. So my children have had a really great life experience. When they were young, we lived in Washington State, so totally different climate than Florida. We got to go to the local farms every single week and pick all of our produce for the entire week. They weren't in school. We got to go to the river, to the ocean, to plan family road trips, all of these things. They weren't in school. For me, as a human, nobody is going to dictate what it is that I am choosing. I, as a soul, we'll just get this on the table now. As a soul, the thing I believe in above all things is choice. And there is no soul in created existence that can ever, will ever, or would ever make a choice for you. You are responsible for every choice you've ever made. You're responsible for choosing to incarnate, choosing your parents, choosing everything about you, your car, the way you keep your home, your hair. These are all choices and they set our vibration. So choice to me is the most important thing. And nobody's going to make a choice for me, because when I say I believe something, I live that thing. Nobody's going to tell me that because they believe we need reading, writing, arithmetic, that my kids need to go to school. I don't believe that. I do have a child, my older son. He's a real genius like his father, an absolute brainiac, legit genius. And he is 100% self-taught. Both of my kids are. I did not emulate the school system in my home. Again, who said? If y'all, there's a wonderful book. The author is, I believe his name is John Taylor Gatto. He was a 40-year, I believe, school teacher veteran. He's won the state award multiple times for Teacher of the Year. And he wrote an amazing book. I believe it's called The Secret Underground History of the American School System. And it's all about how our school system was built on the Prussian school system and how it's all about subjugating you and creating laborers. Every name, every word within our school system is named after this. It's a fact. And so I just know that the reasons that they want us in there are not facts. And I don't even believe their math. Have you been listening to Terrence Howard? E does not equal MC squared. Go look it up. I believe Terrence Howard, he focuses on, I think it's the square root of 2. If you've seen him talk about that. And if you reverse it, it does not calculate. Just because the guys in the white lab coats said something is the way it is, anecdotal data is way more valuable to me. Okay. I can't tell you all the formulas for everything, but I can tell you I've talked to thousands of people, worked with thousands of people, and I know what I know. And so I've got one child that's kind of this genius and he's super self-taught. Everything we ever did was through the library. That's how my kids grew up. And we started in a wagon walking to the library when they were just toddlers looking for something to do. And it turned out to really become the focus of their growing up years, their formative years. They're teenagers now, things change. They still read a lot, but we spent all of our time at the library. And everything they would ask me about in life, where does lightning come from? How does it rain? Any question. And I'd say, oh, that's a great question. Let's find a library book. And so we would just, my boys learned really young how to use the library app. We'd put books on hold. They would call us and we would go pick them up. We would go through 50 and 100, and depending on the age and how small the books were, 200, not an exaggeration, books a week. And all they would do is read. And the older they got, they were such proficient readers. I taught them both to read at 3 years old. It's a gift I've given many, many times. If anybody out there needs it or is ready to teach their children, there's a book from the 1970s. It's called Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons. It's phonics. And with both boys, I got through about 20 lessons and they were reading billboards and signs on the road, and the rest was history. So they've taught everything through that to themselves through reading books. And my oldest son has taught himself all about computers and coding originally through library books. He would get stuck and find videos on YouTube. But he taught all himself that. And now his education, because it is so clear that he's a born computer guy with that kind of very like almost autistic focus on things. And so he works every single program you can imagine, from Adobe and Photoshop and things I don't even understand. He makes video games and stop motion videos with Legos and all of those things. So that's really become his actual education. It is so clear this is who he is and what he's going to do with his life. And he just doesn't need anything else. It overwhelms him to do other things. So he's in his channel. And earlier, something you said, Ed, was about guiding your children. And I don't remember the words that you used, but you talked about your responsibility as a parent, and emotional intelligence is what you said. And I agree with that so much. But I also would add a layer to that and say that as a parent, my responsibility is to guide my children back to themselves. Who are you? Because just like you didn't come with an allegiance to your parents for life. You don't appreciate your parents saying, hey, I don't think you should do this or eat that, or did you check in with me when you got home? You're not here for them. Your parents were a vehicle for you. And so my job as a parent is to help my child to know themselves as clearly as possible, so that when they are set free in the world, which is the whole goal, that they have direction and not confusion. They have clarity about who they are. So my older son is very into computers, but my younger son, he's exactly like me. He's my doppelganger, and he is just a phenomenal psychic intuitive. He knows everything. You can get away with nothing. He can walk into any room and call the energy out, and he's still young. So he just blurts it right out there at 13, and you go, oh God, don't, Finn, no. And so when he would come to schoolwork, when they were young, I always had a little English curriculum and a math curriculum. They had to totally self-taught. If I taught you to read and I have to read to you, use your spelling words to fill out the crossword puzzle. They can do that. I empowered them. You read it, you figure it out. And if you get the whole page of, say, math wrong, we'll help you erase them all and figure out the right way, because there's no better way to learn than by mistakes. So when they were young, they had these little curriculums. Guys, it took 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day. And we were back outside in the mud and building and swinging hammers and building fires and doing dishes and folding our own laundry and making beds every day. I mean, they were doing life, but it came very apparent for each of them at a certain they loathed schoolwork. And we would sit at the counter with schoolwork and have two children absolutely falling apart. And that was a moment for me. I had to come to a moment where I went, absolutely enough is enough. I'm still kind of trying to force this school system thing, saying they need reading, writing, and mathematics. And it's like, well, their dad is a math genius. Math is our life. We talk about it all the time. I got the kid that is a genius, can do math for fun without even hardly needing training. And the other one is never going to touch math in his life, just like his mom. I don't do math. I married math. I have a whole other skill set. And so we're just very focused on allowing them to be who they are and direct them to themselves. And then the final piece of all of that, guys, and it's honestly the hardest piece of all, is to trust this process, because we are forging a path that is new today. It's not been new throughout history, right? Throughout history, if you were born to a carpenter, you were a carpenter. If your dad was a baker, you were a baker. And so we got the education at our parents' hip, but we've gotten so mixed up in this school thing and the belief systems. And you cannot believe how many times people have assumed my kids are weirdos because they didn't go to school. They're the opposite. Once you meet them, you go, these are the most grounded, stable, well-spoken, look you in the eyes, talk about play with all of the kids at the park. They're the kids bringing all the kids and starting the tag, and that they can talk to adults. They're invited everywhere. They're loved by everyone. They are the opposite of weirdos. And the other thing that people ask me all the time is, how will they go to college? And I'm like, they won't. We're not planning on college. Some other families are, but we're not. And again, they're my children. They came and chose me. At the end of the day, if there's something that they don't like, we don't want to do it this way, why are we this? Sometimes I got a kiddo, Mom, why are you such a weirdo? Why are we so radical? Why can't we do things that the other households do? Every once in a while, it's just a moment. And I'm always going to point them back to themselves. And I'm going to ask them the toughest question of all. Why did you choose me as your mother? What are you here doing? I was never putting you in school. I was never feeding you poison. I was never vaccinating you. I was never letting you play video games until 1 a.m. Why did you choose this? And where are you going with your life? And so to trust, to believe that what we are doing and how well set up they are and how well they know themselves, that they are going to forge their own way, like all the men that have come before them. So that's the goal.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And there's a lot of indoctrination, especially in Western societies, where parents are projecting their beliefs onto children. You know, the kids must do well in school. They must be well behaved. They need to stay safe. Don't play games that are going to get you injured and be dangerous. Go to college, get a job, marry children.
Be
Seriously,
miserable like mom and
are we
dad.
going to design another human's life for them? How
Exactly.
egotistical is that? That's ridiculous.
Yes.
There's a company in China, actually, in a city called Anji. They have a program called Anji Play, which is a self-learning school. The children basically go there in the mornings. They kind of have a structure. In the morning is going to be some creative art time. They bring egg cartons, plastic bottles, scissors, pieces of paper, pairs of socks, whatever. They bring whatever the hell they can to school, and that's their creative time. They do whatever they want with that stuff. After they've done that little lesson, the teachers are video recording all the interactions, everything that's happening. After the 2 hours of that creative time, then they play the video and they say, "Oh, here's John making a puppet out of a pair of socks. Here's Sally, blah blah blah, doing something." And let's talk about it. John, why did you make that puppet? And tell us about your puppet. And then the children then have an opportunity to explain what was going on in their mind, because children's minds are 10 times more creative than adults, right? And sometimes we look at a child doing something and parents say, what the hell are they doing? In their minds, they've got this story of dragons and dungeons and like so much amazing things happening in their minds. But many schools and education systems block that and let them to focus on what they want them to focus on. So
Yes.
what they learn, and so that's the creative time. In the afternoon time, they go outside. There's tractors, there's tires, there's bricks, there's pieces of wood, there's ladders. It's 2 hours of free time. Do whatever the hell you want with everything that's here. And the children are building forts. They're working together to get a ladder up so they can climb over a wall. They're working out how they need to work as a team to do things. The teacher's video recording. At the end, they go back and they watch it all. Like, it is so interesting to spend a day there and watch it. And it's the first of its kind in China, probably one of the first in the world. If you give kids that basic foundation, they work out the rest themselves. You give them ABC, they'll work out D to Z themselves,
That's
right?
right. You just put the boys outside in the street, which is where my boys spend most of their time with a couple other homeschool kids and in the neighborhood. I mean, they don't even know what they do all day. They Nerf war, they basketball, they climb trees. Sometimes the answer to what they've been doing for 4 hours is we were in the tree. Well, it makes me very proud that they could so effectively climb a tree. You just never know when those type of skills are going to come in to play.
Yeah.
But I really want to contribute something about this topic that is a little bit off the wall, but I think it's great for people to hear and process what I'm about to say. One of the things I really love is numerology. And numerology is incredibly clarifying. You know, everything we look at, whether it's astrology or numerology, our Akashic record, who we are as a soul, or our human design. But numerology is one of the simplest things we can do. We don't need to know angles, and all we need to have is plus signs and know the right graphs of how to plot numbers. So numerologically, something very interesting has taken place since the year 2000, and it's changed everything about our children and what we as a people as a whole can't stop doing. Is saying things like, they should be able to do this because when I was young, we all went to school. We all sat in the classroom and learned, and we all this and that. Well, it's true. I had the boys around me that would shake their foot on the floor until you couldn't learn anymore because the whole desk would be shaking. Those boys definitely shouldn't have been at the desk even back then. But what's happened numerologically is one of the most important ways we can plot numbers. If I can get my hand free here, hopefully you can still hear me. If we want to plot our numbers like a checkerboard, okay? Just very simple. And I'll do it in the reverse here. This is how you guys would be facing that checkerboard, and hopefully the audience. On the bottom left corner of that checkerboard, if you were facing it, you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it leaves us 3, 6, 9 across the top. Okay. 2, 2, 5, 7 and 1, 3 something. You guys got it. Numbers aren't my thing. I'm a psychic intuitive. I don't work with numbers beyond numerology, but you can imagine this in your mind. And then what we do is we take each individual number of your entire birth date and we plot it on that checkerboard. Now, each row across that checkerboard has a meaning. We have the earth plane, the spirit plane, and the mind plane on top. The mind plane is numbers 3, 6, and 9. And if you go back like to the ancient Greeks and Romans who took on their philosophy and a lot of other cultures, 9, 3, 6, and 9, first of all, we don't have to go beyond Tesla to understand the meaning here. But the number 9 throughout history is the pinnacle of the mind plane. It is as thoughtful and intellectual of a number as there can be. So all of us before the year 2000, 1999, going backward, we all had numbers automatically in the mind plane. Since the year 2000, almost nobody, you have to have a 3, a 6, or a 9 in your birthday. There's not many options. You're born on the 3rd, the 13th, or the 30th, or in the 3rd month, so we have this enormous amount of human beings that have 0 numbers in the mind plane. And how it's reflecting to us cosmically, if you will, or energetically, vibrationally for Earth, is that these children with all of these 2s, first of all, 2 is in the spirit plane. Okay. They're not nearly as concerned with the thought processes, but they need things in small clips, small sound bites. The reason y'all could sit at a desk and learn all day and be who you were is because you automatically had a 9 from the year you were born. Okay. So if you were born in 86 or 76, now you've got a 9 and a 6. If you were born in March, you have a 3, 6, and a 9. You didn't need sound bites. You were able to consume a lot of information. So it's something to think about what is going on. We think that we can remove ourselves, and forget the word think. We don't even think about it. This is just something that we do naturally, inherently, because of our experience and perspective. We do not think about all of the things that are influencing this matrix and what sets us in these vibrational frequencies. There is astrology. There is numerology. There's nothing that you can do about it. It is influencing you. You can any date. I don't care if it's the date they announced COVID, the date that they supposedly landed on the moon, the date World War I broke out. You can go rewind the clock in the sky and see that astrologically, those bodies in the sky, whatever you believe they are, their electricity, whatever you believe they are, they have set the vibration for that moment, which is why something happened. It's why you make the choices you make. It's why who you are in this incarnation, how you're expressing yourself. So there's nothing we could do about it, but we want to just go, well, I did it this way. This is how it used to be. How it used to be doesn't matter. We have a collision course in the sky. We have had hundreds, literally at least 250 cultures for thousands of years that have watched the stars, that mathematically fast forwarded the clock in the sky to today and went, holy shit. Okay, y'all, it's in the Bible. Jesus spoke directly about it. He said, if you want to find the Passover, take the path to the end where you will find a man pouring water out of a pitcher. He said, there you will go into the upper room and you shall find the Passover. The man pouring water out of a pitcher is Aquarius. Anybody can go look that up. That is the symbol for Aquarius. If anybody knows the tarot, they can know the star card is the Aquarius card, and it is a man pouring water out of a pitcher. Y'all didn't know Jesus spoke in astrology. They were fast forwarding and they were going, holy shit. This is going to get real. So we're being completely influenced by it. And if we could just back up a little, my kind of analogy for how we see things is like, we're almost like a horse with blinders. And if y'all have any life experience, and you do, you know, the answers are usually right about here. And when we say things like, I'll sleep on it, or let me pray on it, let me meditate on it. And what that does is it opens your perspective a little bit more. Now that answer is just inside. And it's the same. If you were standing with your nose up to a brick wall and you said, Carrie, but I can't see. And I said, hey, can you just take a big step to the left? And you stepped to the left and you found out that the brick wall was only 3 feet wide, right? And so perspective is everything. And all of these things are influencing us. So when we're making choices about our kids, we're ignorant of their astrology, the astrology of today, the numerology that is influencing us. And there's just so much more than what meets the eye. So that's what's going on with the kids. They literally need sound bites because they don't have anything up in the mind plane. And it's perfect. We're supposed to, because simultaneously, we also have a massive, and I mean massive, influx of life path 11s, guys. A life path 11, there are two master numbers in astrology, the life path 11 and the life path 22. Just for the clarity of everybody listening, there's no such thing as a life path 33. You can ask Pythagoras, you can read any Pythagorean teachings. He's the father of numerology. If you're a 33, you're a 6, and that's why you don't feel you've ever lived up to this this 33 that's been made up. But an 11 and a 22 are really specific, and they're the only numbers that don't get broken down in numerology, and we call them master numbers. And a master number 11 is a spiritual teacher, a spiritual leader. There's somebody that is doing the work on themselves and then turning that work and leading others in the world. And because we have all of these 2000s birth, even to today, I mean, we can figure out the math, it's 2025 to 4, that's a 9. If you were born on 1/1/2025, you're an 11. Okay. Now we haven't had any pure since I don't know, 900s, 800s. Okay. Or we've hardly had any. I can't think of anything, because even if you were born in the 1800s, 1700s, that's an 8. Maybe you could have been born on 1/2. So it's so rare. There are two other ways we can get to the life path 11. We can be a 38 or a 29. Okay. 3 plus 8 is 11. 2 plus 9 is 11. Okay. I'm a 3811, and that's going to bring the energy of the 3 and the 8. 3 is all intellect. 8 is drive. It's that churning energy of the infinity, right? And the 2 and the 9 mean something else, but those are influencing the others, right? And we're here for spiritual leadership. We're here for personal transformation. We're doing it, a lot of us, in a powerful way. But since 2000, we have had like millions upon millions of pure life path 11s born. My son is born 2/13/2012. It equals 11. Okay. There's no other energy. He's not thinking about spirituality maybe the way that I would be with my 3. He's just living it, acting on it, embodying it. He doesn't have the same kind of drive. He is here just for spiritual leadership if he chooses that path. There are always two paths for an 11. It's both sides of that sword that we could dance on, right? Where they're going to go congruent with who we are. We're going to actually flip it and be the opposite. I'll give you an idea. Bill Clinton is a 3811. Okay. He's not here for spiritual leadership. That's very clear. So 11s can become obsessed with the mammon and the false allurements of the world. But we have all of these life path 11s. And to me, all I can see, guys, is a revolution coming. What are all these, who are all these life path 11s supposed to be leading in spirituality, if not people that are waking up? We are a world waking up. We are not going in hell in a handbasket. Nobody will ever be able to convince me of that, because I know astrology. I understand numerology. I've read the prophecies, and I know we're going somewhere that will be what maybe the Bible would talk about, streets paved with gold. Okay, we're going somewhere phenomenal because we have all of these spiritual leaders being born on earth. And as everybody goes through their waking up process, they're going to have lots of places to run. And a lot of other life path 11s like myself that I know are birthing pure 11 children. I know multiple of them. They are choosing people in the work, spiritual leaders for themselves, to mentor them through their life so that they can go out and do whatever they're going to do. And for that reason, that is another reason my child is not in school. I know he's here for something else.
We talked about was the 40 years of sickness. You don't look like you're 40, so maybe it began in the womb. I'm not sure. How do you define sickness versus wellness? How do you describe those two?
I think most people know when they're sick, and most people are, unless you're totally asleep to what's going on. I mean, I still meet people that say, no, my gut's fine. Gluten doesn't bother me. It's like, oh, really? Then what's going on with the big basketball under your shirt? It's like, it is bothering you. You're just not paying attention. So for me, I mean, what I know now through the process that I've been through has taught me where my sickness has come from. And I think most of us, it's starting in the womb. And what we don't understand about the womb is that you are sharing a blood supply with your mother. You're being built off of her cells. And a lot of our mothers, because of the age that they live through, they have a lot of metal in their mouth, all kinds of metal, and it's in their blood. And it's actually dissipating into your brain. If you don't understand that, that's a totally other topic. It's not the same as maybe digesting metal from some salt that came from the earth. Having metal in your mouth is actually evaporating into your brain, and it stays there permanently. Okay. It's also can be in your bloodstream, or it cannot be. I've done hair tests where I've cut my hair and come back with zero metal. I'm being shown the national average of every metal, and mine is zero across the board. I knew something was wrong. I knew it. I was like, could this test be fake? And my husband's saying, no, this is a huge national testing company. Of course not fake. It's all in my brain, guys. It's not even coming out in my hair. It's so lodged in. So it was in the womb. And then what happens is when you're born, they're vaccinating y'all. And I don't care what we say. I am not interested with anybody in having a conversation of whether vaccines do or do not work. I'm so tired of that conversation. I don't care if they work. They are bound to formaldehyde, MSG, heavy metals, adjuvants. It's salmonella, monkey DNA, egg DNA, peanut DNA. This is why we have egg and peanut allergies. I don't care if they work. Find me another delivery system. This is bullshit. There are sublingual vaccines. So they're loaded with heavy metals, and then they're made with actual adjuvants. The adjuvants are what breaks down the blood-brain barrier. Nothing is supposed to be going across the blood-brain barrier. That's why it exists. So they go out of their way to make sure that they can deposit their vaccine into the brain. And therefore, when they open that blood-brain barrier, all of the metals in that vaccine and everything else are going into the brain too. So for me, my mom had enough metal in her mouth and enough wounding and trauma in her system, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, that when I came out of the womb, it was like, what the hell is wrong with my child? Why is she always sick? Why is she always crying? Why is she always snotty? By the time I was a toddler, I was just sick, perpetually sick all the time. Guys, this was the 80s. We didn't even get that many vaccines. I was sick. It was so disheartening to my mother. She had two other children that were perfectly normal, though one of them had ear infection so bad that it almost killed him. He landed in the hospital, almost died of osteomyelitis at 4 years old because of ear infections. And they're unexplainable. Why is this happening to our kids? We're sick all the time. So I spent my life growing up sick, and it was bad. The way that I describe my sickness, and it's so varied and it's changed over my life, because the way Dr. Pompa, who is the doctor I follow and done my detox with, the way he explains it is we all come with our own bucket, and however much that bucket can hold is unique to you. And there is going to come some point in this modern life where we've got chemtrails falling from the sky. We've got Monsanto and poisons all over our crops. We've got fluoride in the water. We've got poison music, poison movies, poison everything, food dyes, sugars, additives, preservatives, all of these things. There is going to come a point, no matter how strong you think you are, that you are going to fill that bucket up. Okay. And it's going to overflow. And when it overflows, which is where a lot of people are finally getting in their 20s, 30s, 40s, I just had an overflowing bucket since I was basically born. And I probably got my first vaccines, injected more metal, and my body said, I can't do this. And so it's going to look different for everybody. I mean, for some people, it's like me, I could never, ever get a hold of my adrenal fatigue. Okay. And let's talk like specific health things in another podcast where we can really get into what is it and what does it really look like and what are we missing and not understanding about adrenal fatigue. But no matter how much of an expert I became, no matter how much supplements, how much sleep, how many regimens, I can make it stop. And the moment I stop the regimens, it's back. Other women, they're being so depleted, say, of B vitamins, and they have chronic hemorrhoid issues, chronic gut issues, chronic fatigue issues, fibromyalgia issues. Every single autoimmune disease is going back to all of these things. Our bucket has been filled, and what's happening is it's made its way into your cells. It is inflamed both the inside and outside of the cell. Do all of that on another podcast because it's deep and it's clear and it's life changing information to see it and to go, oh my God, yes, that resonates. Every problem I have is coming from that. Now, how the fuck do I get it out? And that is so serious and so vitally important to do the right way and to not play around and not run out there and think, because if you're going to try to, move things like heavy metals out of your brain, it's not a joke. You can kill yourself. Okay. That's why it's in there, because the body's protecting you. It won't modulate it out. So it's very serious. How do we get out of it? But for me, growing up, it looked like chronic illness. And, I like to just ask people, like, what is the worst sick you've ever had? Like, have either of you ever been so sick that you were not kidding when you were saying to somebody, just execute me? Have you been that sick in your life? Usually just once, maybe twice. You want to die and you're not playing about it. Get me off of this earth. I cannot do this. I spent my entire life there. Every single time, every time. It would last from 14 to 21 days on average. I would disappear from the world. I missed everything. I missed every sleepover. I missed everything I practiced for to do in school. I missed every school play. I missed going to the water park. I missed everything because I was sick all the time. And, that led me a lot of places. That's a really, really deep conversation. If we had this 4 months ago, this conversation, it was my number one trigger, my number one wound. And I've been through some shit, but it's been my number one wound. And to even speak about it would bring me to absolute weeping because it was such a trigger for me to even speak, because most people cannot understand what it's like to even be that sick and to disappear. And then what happens when you disappear for 14 and 21 days at a time? First of all, I would get better one day, especially when my kids were little. Now I'm a little older here in my mind. My kids would be little. I'm down. My husband is literally bringing babies to the boob because I am blackout sick and I cannot even function. And he's taking them back and forth. And that's the only way that we can do this thing. And I get up for one day and I've got a crazy house and diapers to wash and all of the things. And I run around like crazy, cause all that inflammation again. That's why we need to do another episode and talk about the inflammation in the cell. Cause all the inflammation again. I'd have one good day. By nighttime, I could feel myself going back down the drain and I would wake up so sick I wanted to be shot in the head. And I would go another 21 days like this. I spent my entire life there. And it's beyond and by the way, guys, it was my biggest secret. Didn't want to talk about it. Didn't want to give it any life. I've been on every side of it, from I'm causing this with my thoughts to how many supplements can I take? How many? So this is where I've learned all my answers. Just make it stop. And as I got older, it was the adrenal fatigue, and then it was the gut issues, and then it was the brain fog, and then it was the chronic fatigue syndrome, which became the fibromyalgia, which led me to everything that I've done, because to live life like that is not living. And I'm going to share something here. When I found the program that I'm in, I already understood it was inflammation. I had a mix up in my mind. It was a puzzle piece that I didn't have. And I'd been collecting these puzzle pieces so deep in my journey. I had ever started with the gut issues when I was 13. I couldn't even walk out the door to school without losing my gut in a way that was debilitating. I mean, you need a 30-minute nap. It's like purging on ayahuasca. You need a nap to go through that. And I was doing that every day, and I was just missing so much school. And so that's what really sent me into the physical journey aspect. So what I had understood for all of these years was that I had some inflammation, and I always saw it in my mind as like I had allergies. Everybody knew me would say, that's how I can make it easy and not explain to the world. I'm having allergies again. I'm having allergies. And it would be in my face, and sinus infections and fevers and body aches and the whole nine. My husband lifting me and setting me on the toilet, lifting me and putting me in a bath. I mean, this man has just been my knight in shining armor through the last 16 years. But I had a puzzle piece that I didn't have. Was I always thought that I had this allergy thing in mind. And so I thought that the stimulants that were creating inflammation in me were coming from outside in. So I would think, oh gosh, there's mold in the air today, or there's pollen in the air and I can't see it, but I could feel it. When it's coming, and there's no going back, and there's nothing you can do to stop it, no matter how hard I've tried. And I've tried everything under the sun that I've ever been able to find, and I can't stop it. And so what I ended up learning 5-6 months ago, I was deep, deep, deep sick. And I was actually at a place, guys, I really haven't shared this anywhere. And I'm sitting here going to say this on a podcast, and it's okay with me. But I was so sick and I was so done. And when I mean done, I meant done on this planet. And I began to feel that the people in my life, of which there are many, many that I serve and have deep, close relationships with, I began to feel that everybody was so incredibly selfish for understanding that everything I've given to them has come through this sickness. Everything I've learned. I have friends that literally thank me for my suffering because of what they have gained through my knowledge. And I felt like, how dare you people keep asking me to stay here and endure this? And I was ready to leave the planet. And I was so sick and I was so lost in it. And I had been sick for 3 weeks and I'd been better for less than a week, and I went down again. And even though I had managed myself so well and lived such a clean life, I went from constant sick to maybe just a once a month or once every 6 weeks. But I was doing 2 back to back. And that was it for me. I said, I can never do this again. I would tell my husband, I cannot imagine doing this at 70. How will I do this? How will I get in a bath at 70 like this? I don't want to do this. I want to die. And I was at a place where I actually was fantasizing of calling my closest people and inviting them over and telling them that I'm not doing this anymore and I'm dealing with this tonight. And if you will hold space for me the way I've held space for you, that I'm going to end this tonight. And I believed that with all my heart, and I was stirring on it and I was letting it eat me up. And probably 3 or 4 days after that, in the height of this sickness, I go through so much time where I literally could not open my eyes. The world is so painful. I just would rather black out, and I'll black out for 3 days in this and just stay in bed. I don't get up. I don't eat. I don't anything. My children and husband will come in a couple times a day and check on me, make sure I'm still alive. And I would just keep my eyes closed. But I think I was in a place of enough boredom and so sick of this sickness that I'd been following Dr. Pompa for over 10 years. Love him, adore him. I've learned so much from him, hours and hours and hours of his podcast, and all of the pieces were all floating out there. But in this moment in my sickness, I had gone on to check in Instagram. Somebody had texted me, hey, can you please watch this thing real quick? I could barely open my eyes, but let me do it. And I looked, and right there was Dr. Pompa when I opened. And I love him. I love him. And I said, let me just click on that and I can close my eyes and just listen to him. And I listened to a webinar where he had taken what he had been doing for people for 20 years and he had married it to direct access, and where you can enroll with him, do his program, get his back office, get a coach, and do this process. And I listened, and it changed my life. I knew this was my answer. I shared it with my husband. He knew beyond the shadow of a doubt. Nobody knows me better. Nobody has ever had an upfront seat to what I've gone through like my husband. My mother before that, of course, but we knew. And when we went into that original meeting, husband came with credit card, did not matter the number they said. We knew this was it. And so it came when I got to the end of myself, where I was not playing. I was fully willing to leave this planet of my own choice, to lay down my life, to make it stop. And my answer dropped into my life. Here I am.
That's amazing, Carrie. And I'm glad that you're with us.
I wanted to be here. Like, I love life and I love humans and I believe in what I'm doing. And to have that as like the bane of my existence and my whole story and my whole life, guys, I was just so sick of it. Just make it stop. And if I wasn't sick, I was in full adrenal fatigue. And that's a whole journey in itself of where you want to crawl in a hole and die. And so it was just this never ending cycle that I couldn't get on top of, and I could get better and I could live like a perfect, immaculate life, but it's hardly living. Perfect, immaculate, fasting all the time, eating only the best. Every fiber I put on my body has to be the right one. This isn't living. So I could manage it down to 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 times a year, but I couldn't make it stop But I can sit here and tell you I'm almost 5 months in. I've not been sick a single time, not even a thought, not even close. And I know with every ounce of my being, it is finished. It's my destiny. I found it and I'm moving forward, I believe.
Amen to that. And thank you, Papa, for bringing that program to you.
Yes.
So could you describe, I know we probably could do a whole episode about it, but maybe a highlight of
Yeah.
the Papa program? I know that there's a detox component to it where they're helping you detox a lot of the
Yes.
heavy metals and other things out of your body,
Yes.
and they're doing it in a safe manner. But
Yes.
from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, is it's a supplement regimen, correct?
And the most incredible supplements, bar none, I have ever heard of in my life. When Dr. Pompa says God showed him, when you look at it, you understand God showed him. Okay. He is doing things that are mind blowing. Anybody out there listening that knows anything about mushrooms and growing mushrooms, I know it's a huge thing today. Dr. Pompa is growing his mushrooms, things like lion's mane and chaga and these different mushrooms. He's actually growing them on the substrate that he needs it to digest to deliver it into your brain. It's never, ever been done. And he literally says God showed him. I know a lot of prolific growers. When I share with them the details about what he's doing, they have to manually close their jaw. They know in that moment that this is very real, very possible, and it is the most exciting thing these growers have ever heard. What Dr. Pompa is doing with the supplements is just phenomenal. But basically, his program is based on the understanding that all of the things in your cells, it's not just heavy metals. It is the pesticides, the molds, yeast, Epstein-Barr virus, Lyme's disease, guys. You don't think you have it? I've watched somebody do blood work recently. They had 5 strains of Lyme. Okay. 5 strains. Okay. It's everywhere. It's prevalent and it's being socked into the cells. And what happens is that it inflames the inner part of the cell, and then it's going to inflame the outer part of the cell. And we have a problem on both ends. And that's where Dr. Pompa's program comes in. The first thing that he does, he breaks his program down into 3 parts: a prep phase, a body phase, and a brain phase. Prep phase is carried all throughout the program. You are never, ever off of it, but it takes an entire month just to prep the body in phase 1 to even begin really detoxifying. And what he does is he's using a combination of these supplements, all of which he's grown and created, engineered, bottled. Everything has been done. He owns 2 400-acre biological farms, regenerative farms, where he produces everything himself. And the first thing that he's going to focus on in that program, phase 1, is all about reducing the inflammation in the cells. And it's difficult to do. That is why he uses the mushrooms the way that he does. But we don't just want to uninflame the cells. We also have burned out and there's a word that I can't, it's not coming to my mind, but we want to make usable again what are called the methylation pathways. That's on every cell, and the methylation pathway, we do that. We all have heard of like MTHFR and methylating Bs. Well, those methylated Bs in your body, they activate that door on the cell, and they help to move toxic waste out of the cell. So that's a methylation pathway. And essentially through the inflammation and the poison that's being housed in the cell, the methylation pathways are closed, and therefore we can't get these toxins out. But we have another big issue when the outside of the cell, which is like a double pane of glass, just like you've got glass, and in the center you have argon oil, and it keeps the barrier of hot and cold. Our cells on the outside are just like that. And in the center, what we have is a layer of lipids, which are fats, because we need lots and lots of fats, guys. And what happens is information comes into the cell, whether it's nutrition or hormones, and it rides through those double layers. It catches a ride on a lipid and it's deposited into the cell. And because you have so much cellular inflammation, you actually can't get the hormones and the nutrition in, and you can't get toxins and poisons out of that methylation pathway. And so what his program does that entire first month is we got to get that inflammation down and prime the methylation pathways to actually move things out. And we got to start getting the cell in a position to pull nutrition back in and hormones. And then we move into the detox portion. Now that we're primed, we're going to stay on that support and all of the drainage things and the gut enhancer and just, you read these products and you're like, holy shit, like this has never been done. I've never heard of anything like this. But There's a lot of work that's happening in the gut and in methylating everything out. And then he's going to bring in the detoxification. And we're going to spend 3 full months detoxicating just the cells, everything from the brain down. And we're using varied chelators, all of which this man has downloaded, with the exception of one that another company makes. And, it has some basic things I think we know about a lot. What are they called that put the cages around? Neo something. I can't think of the name right now, but it's a combination of a lot of chelators, and then he uses a combination of a lot of binders. We actually have to bind everything and send it out of the system safely, always keeping that inflammation down, the methylation pathways open. And then we'll get to our final phase, the brain phase. I'm just getting into it. The brain phase is long. You're in the program with them supporting you in brain phase for a month, but brain phase actually takes at least 2 years because the amount of tissue and the depths in your brain, it takes a long time to chelate everything up to the surface. And so it's a long process, but we only do our detoxes 3 days on and 4 days off, or the brain is 3 days on and 11 days off. What people don't understand about detoxing is the magic happens after the detox in the recovery phase. We now know scientifically so much is happening there that it's vital. So a big mistake a lot of people make with detox is just to go and take it every day. It's a huge mistake. It burns out the methylation pathways and it makes you stagnant. And so when I say I'll be going on for 2 years, I mean 6 days a month, y'all. I mean 3 days on, 11 days off, twice a month. But the brain phase is going to actually, he has a lot of the mushrooms and things that are grown. There's a certain mushroom, and I think it's lion's mane. It's known for crossing blood-brain barrier. So let's say we need let me give you all an example. Let's say we need a powerful anti-inflammatory. Everybody these days reaches for turmeric. Duh. Just go to Costco. You'll see how much turmeric is being sold. Guess what? Guys, it's not helping anybody. If it was helping, we wouldn't still be in pain and on medication and searching for more and taking more and more and more and more and more. Just go to Costco. You're going to go, oh my God, this stuff clearly doesn't work. There's way too much of it. I don't know anybody that's genuinely getting relief. That's a whole nother topic, but it's actually not an anti-inflammatory. It's actually an antioxidant. Psychedelics are true anti-inflammatories. Again, another topic. It's an antioxidant. It does not work how we've been told that it works. It can't even get into the cell, and it's not helping. But Dr. Pompa says God showed him to grow lion's mane mushrooms on turmeric. You go do your research. A mushroom is decomposing and making in its fruit bioavailable everything it decomposed. So he's decomposing the turmeric into the lion's mane. The lion's mane carries bioavailable turmeric into your brain, and now we have magic. You're actually uninflamed for the first time in your life. So I'm just getting ready to go through the brain phase. From everything I understand, I've actually had it very easy. I would have thought I would have had it harder than anybody with my health history. This has been a dream of a detox for me. I just know so much already. I've been able to be careful to add extra binders. And, with me and my detox specialist, mostly we just have girl talk and great conversations about, she's kind of always learning a little bit from me. And so because of my knowledge, I've been able to do my extra things, and I'm so well adept at things like coffee enemas and things that can really make you feel better in your process. So I've just been sailing through this process, but I know for sure getting to the brain phase is going to be a whole nother thing. It is hard work to chelate things out of the brain. I will definitely be feeling this, and that process will take a long time, but his program, you close out at 5 months. There's extra support of ongoing if you need it. But at 5 months, you're considered graduated. And the most important thing at that 5 months when we graduate is that we're now only replicating healthy cells, or primarily healthy cells. Right now, since almost birth, or literal birth, I've been replicating bad cells that are freaking out, inflamed, closed down methylation pathways because of the poison. And so we're just replicating and replicating these. That's what cells do. And the whole kind of picture of graduation of this program is that you're now primarily replicating good cells, and you can duplicate this process for the rest of your life. That is a huge part of the program, is that you are not married to the program, that you have access to the teaching tools, the information, the 50 videos of training that taught me everything about this program. Well, I got support with the detox specialist, but I have access to it for life. So in 5 years, if I'm home free and I'm feeling great for 5 years, and then I stay in a moldy hotel room and I go, I'm really sensitive to molds again, I will never need what I needed for these 5 months, but I will have access to the knowledge and the supplements, and I can go and maintain that because, guys, there's no way off of this poison planet. It's poison. Everything is poison. There's formaldehyde in the clothes you wear. So we have to know how to do it again and again and again. So that's essentially the gist of this process. It is, guys, I have spent my life working with supplements. I was actually raised in a supplement family. My grandmother made all of her money in the supplement world. I was bathed in healthy alternative things when I was born. Like, I was raised as a radical. I've been in this forever. I know for sure Dr. Pompa's program is far and away the best thing I've ever looked at. The only thing that has ever worked for me, if you have fibromyalgia or lupus or hemorrhoid problems or gut issues or brain fog, it does not matter. You are poisoned and you need to get the poison out. It's universal.
Mm-hmm. And brought to you by Pampa.
I know, and I hate to even be like that, but it is true, and everybody does need to know. His name is spelled Pompa, Pompa.
Mm-hmm.
He's on Instagram, follow him on YouTube. He has a podcast that he's been running forever, and so many great conversations. He is just the fasting master, autophagy master. He'll teach you about diet variation and just so many incredible things, but he has just been prayerful all along the way, and you will never hear Dr. Pompa taking all the credit. He says, I don't even know where this came from. I was praying on an airplane and the answer dropped in.
Mm-hmm.
So Dr. Pompa is the man. As far as
Shout out to Dr. Pompa. Invitation for you to join the Masters of Wellness podcast.
Yeah.
Send us a message. Wow.
yes.
Carrie, that is incredible. We want to have you back over and over, and there's so many things we can go deeper on with the topics that you talked about today. Your journey of sub-health to an uptick now where you're heading towards a life of health and happiness. It is inspirational for other people to listen and to watch this. Anybody out there that has got some challenges or something that does not feel right, reach out to us, reach out to Carrie. We'll put all of our contact details in the description just to have a chat. It may or may not be something that works for you, but there is a solution for every person out there. It may not be Dr. Pompa's solution. It might be something else, but there is a reason why we are not in perfect health. What's the reason? Let's identify it. I heard you mention coffee enema, and then you just kind of brushed over it. That's interesting.
Yep.
So as well as the coffee enema, what other alternative or eyebrow raising things have you come across that you think are effective and people should consider?
Well, I laugh hard because Chuck already knows. Look at Chuck's face because he knows what I'm about to say, y'all. He knows what I'm about to say. One of the most important things that I do is I drink my morning urine every day.
There it is.
Every day of my life. I drink my morning urine and I take the information and also through my skin and my eyes. So I cover myself in urine sometimes throughout the day.
Yep.
Every day I wake up in the morning and the first thing I do is catch my morning urine in a cup. Okay. I take the lion's share of that and I pour it into a dropper bottle, a glass dropper bottle. And what's left in there is a few tablespoons. I like to say this clear because people have an understanding. You can find a lot of people that just drink their urine and are very used to it, but that's definitely not a place to start. I usually leave about 3 tablespoons. The further I get in the journey, I'm greedy. I want more pee. I know it sounds crazy, but if you just start with 3 tablespoons of morning urine and you fill it with water, maybe 4 ounces, and just chug it down in the morning, it's a surprising experience. What I can explain about it from how I interpret, it feels like myself. It's me. It's my information in there. And you can't know what you can only experience. Like, you have to try it to understand. I ever started doing it from my eyes. I've known about urine therapy for years. It's something Dr. Pompa actually teaches and loves. It's not a part of his program, but if you're willing to do it, it's absolutely a part of his program. And the urine is so powerful, even when you're detoxing everything but heavy metals, because those are actual metals we'd be putting back in, that even when you're detoxing, you drink your urine every day. And urine is sterile. Urine has been cleaned. Urine only has information left. And so it's incredibly profoundly safe, but it's so loaded with stem cells. If you ferment your urine, which means put it in a jar and set it in your bathroom window for a day or two. It's amplifying and multiplying its effects, and it's leading to the point of hundreds of millions of stem cells. When you, in a 24-hour period, you urinate out about 100 million stem cells. Y'all, we are killing babies to get stem cells. You understand the value of stem cells. Okay. You have your own stem cells. But the other thing about urine is that it has every single antibody to every single thing that ails you at all times. So what that means is if you have cancer, it's got stem cells for that. Cancer you don't know about, it's got stem cells for that. You got a wart problem, it's got stem cells for your wart. Did you get a sunburn in the sun today? Catch your pee afterwards. Guess what it has? Antibodies to the sunburn. Straight on the skin. Drink it down. Okay. It is the most intelligent, information-filled, stem cell-laden medicine you could ever use. Every day. And when you start doing it, so when I first started doing it, I noticed about myself that I started needing readers to read my phone at night in bed. I'm doing this whole thing. And I finally said, okay, I'm not doing this. I'm not wearing glasses. They're a crutch and they're just going to get worse and worse. I said, I'm going to try urine therapy in my eyes. And the first day that I got it with the dropper bottle and you're going, I can't believe I'm doing this. And I even thought, I'll wait till it's not warm. Let me let it cool down. I let like 3 hours go by and I put it in. I had all of these beliefs and hangups. But the second I put it in my eyes, I know it's crazy. The second I put it in my eyes, I instantly resonated with information. It felt like more information than I could even explain. It was all the information and it was going in through my eyes. I immediately took that dropper and rubbed it into my face and my neck, everywhere we get exposed to the elements. And I went, ooh, I like that. And I kept on with that for a handful of days. And I don't remember what came up. I'm pretty sure I had a big event and I had multiple people calling me saying that they were sick and they weren't sure if they could make it. And I'm still working out, guys, the actual trauma around being sick. I'm still working out, waking up every day well and like believing that it's not ever going to happen to me again. So when these people were sick for this event, I thought, well, I'm hosting the event. I better be careful. It's going around. It was, I think, a stomach bug that was going around. And so I said, this is it. If not now, when? And you got to drink your urine because you cannot afford to be sick at this event. And I started that day and it took me a minute. It was like, okay, just tug. And now I'm like, my taste, I can't explain it. If you have to do it, I know it's weird. It's not like you like it. It's that you are in love with the information and the relationship you have with your urine. So I'm a crack up. So all of my friends drink urine, even if they wouldn't say it on a podcast, they do. I had a good friend this weekend in another medicine space that I was not working at. I got a text message. They've been making fun of me about drinking my pee for a long time. And they had a need. And I got a text this weekend that said, hey, Carrie, I had a blister on my foot and I peed on it. And I was like, woohoo! Because to me, it's a go-to medicine. In fact, after I do medicine work, whether I drink ayahuasca or psilocybin, I catch my morning urine the next day. And then I let that ferment long-term, 3 months, 6 months. I want to ferment. That is so insanely potent. And it's also carrying the information of either Mother Aya or psilocybin. That's what I'm going to use on things like cancer spots or wounds, things that won't settle down. I had a little cancer spot up here on my nose. I don't know why I had it. I don't know why these things happen. I knew that it was that. I've seen enough of them and I couldn't make it go away for probably 10 months, maybe a year. And I've got an arsenal of medicines that you cannot even imagine how big. I'm 27 years, guys. I've been collecting medicines and herbs and techniques. I put everything on it for 10 months or so. Urine, started to put my urine on it. I saw a 90% reduction in probably a week. Now I try to remember once a day to get my psilocybin fermented urine that I've had for now probably 2 months, that jar. And I try to remember every day to put a little bit on that, what's left of that cancer spot. So once you do it and you develop a relationship with your urine, I'm to the point where I don't like to waste urine. I think about that. I'm peeing in the woods. Yes, I said I'm peeing in the woods. I spend a lot of time at medicine churches and I'm thinking, gosh, does anybody have a cup? What can we do with this urine right now? because it will make you feel invigorated, especially fermented urine. If you take it, put it on your face, put it on your neck, the information goes in, all of the stem cells, everything you need, you will feel like fresh and energized. I mean, y'all, I did it right before I came here for that reason. This is what I did. I wanted to feel fresh and energized and awake, and that's how I achieved it. So that's a big one, but we can really do, I think it would be probably pretty fun if we did an episode just talking about the most important health pieces that I've picked up on my journey, because there are so many and there's so much conflicting information. And to bring it all the way back to something I said quite a while ago, anecdotal evidence is king. Okay. You can look on the internet all day. Go look on the internet. It'll tell you drinking your urine is dangerous. Guys, it's not dangerous. If you were lost at sea, they'd be telling you to drink it. So it's dangerous on land, but not on water. It's ridiculous. They don't want you to have it because it's so fucking good for you. Okay. And so if you go to the internet and you look it up and you say, oh, it's dangerous. No, it's not. Every person I know, it does it. The best doctors in the world that I follow do it. There's nothing dangerous about it. So anecdotal evidence for a lot of the things, I've tried all of the things like almost anything you can bring me, I've tried and I've paid and I've done the things where I've actually studied it as a modality or I've used specialists, and I've seen, and I have what I call Carrie's medicine cabinet. It's just this many things that every human being needs to know and have that should be our go-to, and all the rest is just noise. And guys, I know that from spending $150,000 in my journey on trying all of them, right? They're going to want these things in their medicine cabinet. They're going to be going, okay, wait, exactly how do we do a coffee enema? And I'm like, I'm so glad you asked, because I've probably done 1,500 coffee enemas, and there is a technique and there is a way and there's some encouragement that you need to hear. And so there's a lot there. And so that might be a really great direction to help us get some information to people so that it becomes very realistic for them and easy to obtain. They're tools that we need in our toolbox. Yeah. That's how I see them.
Yeah. One of the things that we have learnt through doing this podcast, Chuck, is always have an open mind. We've heard things on this podcast that blow people's mind. You know, people covered in shit, among other things. It all happens here on the Masters of Wellness podcast. Yeah. And that's why this is such a unique experience. And we are so, so happy to meet and learn from incredible people like Carrie. A final thought I just wanted to share. Carrie talked about her children and homeschooling and instilling the important values and qualities into her children who are a part of her, rather than following the typical indoctrination that we experience in the normal system. There is a video of Chuck's kids on Instagram when it was snowing, wintertime snow, which does not happen very often in Virginia Beach. And I was mesmerized when I watched this short video. It's of his beautiful daughter there, Lincoln, and his son, Chandler. They were climbing up a little slide. It was all snowing, very cold. They had their big, thick jackets on and everything. Climbing up the slide, little Lincoln there was very, very slowly climbing up the slides. Chandler, the big brother, was there supervising, protecting, guiding, encouraging her step by step. And the steps were slow, one by one, and put your hand here and so on. And that big brother, the quality that he was showing there of the protector, the man, the warrior, yes, looking after his beautiful little sister. And then when she came down the slide with a beautiful smile on her face, that moment is priceless. And I think there's miracles in the faces of our children every day that we need to stop and pay attention to and remember little moments like that. And I'm sure, Carrie, you've got yours. I certainly do with my kids as well. I also have 2 boys, so I know what it's all about.
I just recently saw that again and just slowed down and watched the video like 3 times. And yeah, I observed how awesome he was as a big brother and how much fun she had with him. And when she got her legs stuck trying to get up on his lap, and his patience there, just so daddy.
Yeah, it's something in 5 or 10 years later, or even when he's a grown man and adult and looks back and he grows into a fantastic gentleman of the world, you can look back to see where it started. It started right now in these early years.
Yes, agreed. So agree.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining, including our latecomer there, Lincoln. Hello, Lincoln. Hello, pretty girl.
Hi, Lincoln.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Okay, gentlemen. Take care.
See you later.
Okay. Bye, guys. Bye.